Welcome to another video from JHD Architects. This one's about altering and extended listed buildings. We've had quite a bit of experience over the years of doing this, and we've come up with some top tips and worst mistakes just to help people who either already own a listed building or who are thinking of buying one. And of course they come in many different varieties. You can see here very, very old on the left, much more contemporary on the right. Now, listed doesn't change the fact that you can alter one, but it does mean that if you want to change one, then it requires listed building consent, and you need to follow the government guidance. Our expertise is really trying to find a way to extend and alter a building that gives you the contemporary living that you want, and perhaps saving energy, but without harming the listed building. And again, you can see here they come in incredible variety of very, very contemporary on the left, mid-20th century, to very, very old medieval on the right. And of course, you are buying one of 450,000 listed buildings, and they're part of our national heritage, so you really are a custodian for the nation. Now, this brings you a huge amount of pleasure, and you can take a lot of interest in the listed building, but also it comes with it some responsibility to look after the property for future generations. So you're limited in what you can do. You have to obtain listed building consent, and of course that can take longer. It can take certainly longer than normal planning permission, so you need to be patient. And when you're maintaining a property or carrying out repairs, that's going to need materials and skills that might be in short supply, difficult to get hold of, perhaps even more expensive. So you need to take advice. So consult an architect with the relevant experience, and do it early so that you have a chance to avoid reworking the design and disappointment on timing. A good architect can really help you create a sort of new stamp on your building that reflects your personality, but at the same time making sure that it all complies with relevant legislation. If it's a grade 1 building, you probably need to talk to English Heritage. If it's grade 2, then the local planning authority would usually be enough. But also don't overlook neighbours who often have some really interesting history, especially if they've lived there quite a long time. Choose the best architect you can. Architects are well worth the cost. With good evaluation of design, we can usually come up with an even better design than you were expecting. And in some cases, the only way you're really going to get a listed building project off the ground is to use a good architect, because of the complexities of balancing modern design, modern interventions with the listed building requirements. This can add significant value to the project right from the first stage. So in a way, you need to think about the architect's fees and this as an investment that's going to improve the value of your home. Now you need to be clear about your brief. These pictures show a very contemporary swimming pool building where the client was very clear they wanted a contemporary feel, but it's in the grounds of a listed building. So you need to make a list of things that are important to you, aspects of design, aspects of functionality. But don't worry about getting the design right, because that's the job of the architect. And you need to work with the house rather than against it. It's kind of going with the flow, if you like. When it comes to writing a brief, we've prepared a guide that you can download from our website, which may be useful. Now, how are you going to understand the design? It is very difficult, I know, for non-architects to read 2D plans, which is why we don't work in 2D anymore, we work in 3D. And what we're trying to do is to help you completely understand the model, because that is going to be a true reflection of what's going to be built. So if you can walk around it during the design stage and really understand what it is that you're going to get, you can then be completely satisfied that you're going to like the finished product. And you can also comment on aspects that perhaps you don't like and need to be amending. And that's all done before actually work starts on site. The way you would access the model is using some free software that will run on any computer or tablet. It means that in your own time, wherever you happen to be at that time, you can navigate your way around the whole building. You can really spend the time to understand it, and that's really key. The model starts out simple and gets far more detailed as the work progresses. Now, this image on the left is actually of a development in the middle of a conservation area, but it has listed buildings all around it, and we felt that it would be useful to show the relevance of the listed buildings in the new design. And so we placed all of the listed buildings in 3D, as you can see. The new building is in colour. And it gives real context to the project and helps, in particular, the planning officers and listed buildings officers make an assessment as to whether our design is acceptable or not. Budget is always key to any project. You need to seek help early about what things are likely to cost, and you need to make sure you include VAT and professional fees. There are some grants and VAT reductions available, but they have been severely curtailed in the last few years. And of course you need to balance what you can afford and what's worth spending in terms of the future investment value of the building. It may be possible to phase the work, perhaps over a few years, but you need to keep in mind your master plan and the long-term vision, so what you do in phase 1 doesn't damage what you might want to do in phase 3 or later. You need to obtain listed building consent. It's a criminal offence not to, and so it's a critical part of the process. And it's different to planning permission. In fact, often you need both. And the listed buildings officer needs to assess whether the design that's been put forward is acceptable. So they look at whether it's going to result in a loss of part of the building. So if you're going to propose, for instance, to demolish a very, very old spine wall in a building, that's unlikely to be acceptable. Same with perhaps removing an original staircase. One of the biggest and most difficult issues is changes to windows. And certainly if windows are original, it's unlikely that you're ever going to get consent to change them and improve their energy performance. But there are other ways of approaching that. The second thing is when you're creating perhaps an extension or an outbuilding, is that going to harm the setting of the listed building? Is it going to overpower it, dominate it, or, for instance, conceal the view of the listed building? These are all issues that need to be very carefully thought through right at the beginning. Now, of course, these photographs are pretty dramatic in terms of mistakes, but I think that it's important that taking early advice is really something we can't stress enough. If you don't take the right advice at the right time, you just find that the project is delayed or even refuses permission and you have to start again from scratch. You've got to balance your aspirations with what's going to be possible, and that can sometimes be quite frustrating. Don't forget that a lot of the internal features are also listed. You need to pretty much assume that everything that is old in the building cannot be removed without consent. And also things that are outside in the garden, trees, walls, other external features, they're all listed and they need to be taken account of. The last point is really not understand, is clients who don't understand what it is that they're going to get before work starts on site. It applies to every kind of project. And it is tempting to think we'll leave things until the builders start. But if you do and then start to change your mind, then that's going to be expensive, it's going to waste your time, and it's going to waste a lot of money. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it interesting. We're JHD Architects, as you can see our web address on the screen there. If you would like to talk about a particular project, please get in touch and we'd be glad to help. Thank you very much for watching.